They're above 500. Enjoy it. They're 5-3. Or sorry, 4-3. Trying to get to 5-3 against Buffalo this weekend, but they're 4-3. Regardless, they're going to make it to 8 games. Used to be the midway point, but with 17, they're going to make it to the 8-game mark, 500 or better. Right? Enjoy that. And then start looking around for how, what, why, right? What caused it? Why are they this good? Why are they better than they've been in the past? Because I can put all the context I want on it, and you can as well. Well, the teams they're playing aren't great. Oh, they caught these 2 teams without players that were hurt. All this context. But guess what? In years past, they've played teams that were facing injuries. They've played bad teams, and they've lost to those teams. So if all they do for the rest of the year is beat the teams they're supposed to beat, it'll be the best team they've had in quite some time. Okay, so be excited. Now who's causing it? Defensively, it's the Stars. Defensively, it's as planned. Defensively, the Dan Morgan in the front office are what I call seeing the field, right? They're seeing it well. Offensively, I think a bit of it is kind of like a surprise, right? It's like, Corbett goes down. Cade Mays is playing great. Happy accident, right? Chuba Hubbard gets hurt. Rico Dowdle becomes one of the best running backs in the league. Happy accident. Defense, it's like, no, we paid this guy to be the best player on the team. J.C. Horn is playing like the best player on the team. We paid this guy at the time to be the best player on the team. Derrick Brown is playing like one of the best players on the team. And it goes on and on. Trevon Merrick had a big game this weekend. He's a guy they brought in as a free agent to have big games when you needed stops. Nick Scorton had a big game. Nick Scorton is a guy you drafted in the second round, the top defensive player you drafted, to step in and have big games. Like, the defense is operating as intended. Derrick Brown and J.C. Horn are leading a defense that could look at the offense and literally say, just don't mess us up. Right? When they're crossing after jogging off the field and jogging on, when the offense and defense are crossing, the defense could have been this weekend 100% serious and said, hey, punt it and we're good. And that is a huge, massive weight off of everybody's shoulders. And the few times they did get a little... like, oh, look at this. The Jets have a little something going. J.C. Horn was there to make a play. J.C. Horn's interceptions. First of all, I want to say this, and I've said this in the past. The only knock on J.C. Horn in his career has been health. When healthy, he's been really good. And some of you might say, well, he doesn't have the statistics. He has not been in the situation. Right? One of the stats that I brought up, which was true quite a bit until this week, that Bryce Young had 9 career wins, whatever it was. 8 of them had been game-winning drives in the fourth quarter and overtime. That all adds up to the Panthers almost never in the last 3 years played with a lead. The Falcons game, kind of the standout game, right? But they almost never played with a lead, which means J.C. Horn has been out there trying to keep up with other elite defensive backs without ever having a quarterback that had to force the issue playing against him. This weekend, what happened? They had a nice little lead. They were ahead. So Tyrod Taylor and Justin Fields, these guys had to start taking chances. And as soon as they did, what happened? J.C. Horn made 2 interceptions. He's been waiting a long time for the Panthers to get a 3rd and 12 late in the game with a 2-score lead. Because that's when a player like J.C. Horn can really, put his seal on the game. And then Derrick Brown. And I'm going to let you know how underrated Derrick Brown is. I'm going to let you know, and this is an anecdotal, just happened to me today. So occasionally in this business, on the week of a big game, somebody, a media entity from the opposing team's market, will reach out and say, like, hey, we want to do a... what are they bringing to the table segment? Can you come talk about the Panthers? So a Buffalo sports, I won't put them on blast here, a Buffalo podcast or whatever show.
Say their name, it's fine.
I think it's Buffalo Plus is what it was called.
All right.
They called me up, said, hey, let's talk about it. And I was like, sure. We talked about it, and they were super up on all the Bryce drama. They were super up on Fritterer, McMillan, and they had all Rico Dowdle, what's going on there. Then we got to the defense. And the way they posed the Derrick Brown question was, Derrick Brown, these last 2 games, what has it been, a light coming on situation for Derrick Brown? I was like, 2 years ago, he broke the NFL record for most tackles by an interior defensive lineman. This is not a light coming on situation for Derrick Brown. It is what happens when an elite talent hits their prime. They add little things to their game, but they were already really, really good, right? And we've been talking about it since the offseason. I said Derrick Brown is an all-pro if he can get to 6 sacks. Because his run-stuffing ability is already league standard, right? Already best of the best. But you're not going to get that all-pro nod. You're not going to get that, super-duper hype, NFL top 100 love unless you have at least a little bit of pass rush. Guess what happened against the Jets? He started putting together some of the stats that are going to make people like Buffalo recognize, oh, he is really good, right? Rather than, what's going on here? What a big game from Derrick Brown. I'm sitting here going, the only difference is he got home on a couple sacks. Right? 7 tackles, that makes sense. He had 100 and something the other year. A couple of quarterback hits, that makes sense. He's a big dude with a relentless motor. 3 pass breakups, he's a big dude in the middle. If you put a quarterback out there that isn't, 6'5", laser rocket arm thrown over the top, he's going to get his hands on the ball a few times. But he got 2 sacks. And that is the difference. That is other people will notice rather than just those that are watching the Panthers. It's not some gigantic, oh my goodness, Derrick Brown is playing astronomically better. It's if Derrick Brown gets home on 6 to 8 sacks this year, I think he's an all-pro. And he's got 3 of them through this point in the season.
Most in a single season in his career was 2021, his second year in the league, he had 3.
So he's already tied his season best. And there's still a long way to go.
Mm-hmm.
That's a superstar doing what superstars should do at this point in their career. Adding just that one more thing that takes them from really good franchise cornerstone to everybody's going to know your name. Everybody's going to know your name. And because those two, right, I do think it all starts with them, and it has to when you're paying them as much money as the Panthers are paying them. When J.C. Horn is doing what he's doing and Derrick Brown is doing what he's doing, it makes everyone else's job easier. Because now Nick Scorton's getting to the quarterback. Right now, Trayvon Merritt gets to blitz from the sky at a safety position and get to the quarterback and get tackles behind the line. And why? Well, because you're comfortable putting J.C. Horn on an island. Because you're comfortable with Derrick Brown beating double teams. Like everyone else gets to have more opportunities to make plays because your stars are playing like stars. And it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? They're playing well enough that even when the offense scores 13 points, you're ahead in the fourth quarter. And why is that a big deal? Because now the opposing team has to, despite the fact that they don't have quarterbacks that they trust throwing the ball a ton, they have to drop back and sling it, which gives them more opportunity to make the type of plays that they made. And then because they make those plays, it gets better, and then it just keeps coming around and around and around. And you get them in that same bit of quicksand that the Panthers offense has lived in for the last 2 years, only now you're doing it to them. Tell me Justin Fields, both pre-injury and then pre-benching, didn't have the look on his face that Bryce had a few times last year. Of that, yeah, I'm trying hard. I don't know what's going on. I'm a little frozen back here. I got hit again. I'm a little frozen back here. Threw it in the dirt. I thought that was a good throw. How did he intercept it with one hand and get his feet down in the end zone? That's bad luck. I think that defense, and I named a couple guys, but really, if you just looked at like the highest paid players on the defense and went down in order, it was almost like that was the order of which they played really well. That's really good roster management. It's really good roster management is we paid the guys that went out there and helped us win a football game. Now, obviously, consistency is what matters the most.
Sure.
You got to do it over and over again. But that defense deserves all the credit in the world for that win. And it allowed the offense, right? Because then you look at the offense and go, well, they only scored 13, which is not okay, and it's never going to be okay. And I'm sure behind closed doors, the offense is having some real honest conversations. But there was a point where you could tell last night they just thought, if we don't turn this ball over, I think we're good. And Bryce Young started dirting everything, right? If he didn't love the way he saw it, he was going to skip it 5 yards before the receiver. And Andy Dalton did a bit of that until they felt like they needed, one more first down, and they found it. But the defense, it changes the algorithm. It changes the math for an offense. It changes the math for a coach. Changes the way you use timeouts. Changes the way you run the clock. Changes everything when you have your guys playing like that. And now it becomes, can you do it again? Now it becomes, can you do it again?
So, speaking along the lines of Derrick Brown, I love this comparison by Brandon in our YouTube live chat.
Let's hear it.
Said it reminds him, Brandon, of the NHL or people around the NHL ignoring Jacob Slavin. Then suddenly he gets all the shine at Four Nations, and we're all looking around like, yeah, we know he's great. Where have you been?
It is. It's very much very similar. And especially because in that case, probably points and sacks would be the it's like, because you don't have that one thing that people box score watch, you're not going to get the national love. Because Slavin does 95% unbelievable. The 5% is just he's not a great point accumulator. And Derrick Brown does 95% great. The 5% he doesn't do is he doesn't always get home for sacks. And just having low totals in that category, that column, feels like it holds both of them back, like 5 tiers, right? When they should be low, probably lower first tier at their position, like lower top tier with room to grow. They're seen as like third or fourth or fifth tier when it's like, no. You just don't know, which is always kind of fun to say, by the way. Like if Jacob Slavin and Derrick Brown are like our little garage band, right? Like, oh, you haven't heard? I got them on cassette. And they're just fantastic. And we're all aware that at one point they're going to be playing arenas, and we're going to be, oh, yeah, we've been chilling with Derrick Brown since 2023.
I saw him live.
Yeah, exactly. I saw him it was 40-seat theater.
Yeah.
It was a dive bar.
It's at Neptune's downtown.
Yeah, that's kind of how I think of like Slavin and Derrick Brown. They're going to be playing arenas. Everybody's going to get there. But for right now, they're the last couple of shows where it's just it's our band, our garage band.